Okay, take two. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. My name is Barbara. You can find me as Diva on Ravelry and Instagram. And it is Monday, October 24th, 2016. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. If you would like to be notified about new podcast uploads, please click subscribe on YouTube. And I won't kid you, I love getting subscribers. It's so exciting. My husband hears about every single one of you. I just squee every time somebody subscribes. So it's as much for me, more for me than for you, I suppose. But you will be notified, and I'll be, and you'll know when I have a new podcast. So anyway, we also have a Ravelry group for the Flame and Fiber podcast Ravelry group. I'm not going to kid you. There's not a thing going on over there. I'd love it if you would, post in the welcome thread and tell me about you. That is where I post the show notes for my podcast. I don't have a blog or a website or anything like that. So the show notes go there in Ravelry where they're easy to find. And so if there's anything I talk about, I try to put it in the show notes. And if I forget something, please message me and I will give you the answer and add it to the show notes. So we are at 81 subscribers on YouTube. So I will let you know that when we get to 100 subscribers, I plan on having a subscriber giveaway. So please go to the Ravelry podcast group and join us and say hello, so that you can qualify for the giveaway. I will, at a minimum, be sending, a bunch of stitch markers that I made in my lampwork studio, which I hope people will like. Maybe I'll make those in the coming week and show them in the next podcast so people will have an idea of what I'm talking about. I did show them a couple of podcasts ago when I was talking about making swag for Rhinebeck. And so you can go back 2 episodes to episode number 4 and see me making those at the end of the episode and see what they look like. But I'll show more next week that will show the prize for the giveaway. And I'm sure I will add something else besides just stitch markers to celebrate having 100 subscribers. So please subscribe if you have any interest. I would love it. I want to thank Nancy from the Round Rabbit podcast. She gave me a wonderful shout out in her last episode. I love her podcast. She is so funny, and I'm so glad, Nancy, that you liked my podcast. I wish we lived closer. I'd come and have wine with you. I would sit there, we could knit, and I don't know. It would be so much fun. It was so nice to meet you at Rhinebeck, and I was so thrilled with the shout out, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It is actually 5 o'clock at night here. I could be drinking wine along with you while I do this podcast, except that I think that's not a good idea. I am a lightweight when it comes to drinking, and I already had to add a section. I don't even have sections in my podcast, and I'm adding a section today called "What the hell did I say that for?" or something similar, because I have to sort of eat my words from something I said a few podcasts back, which, I'm a talker. That's going to happen. But anyway, thank you so much, Nancy. I'm looking forward to your next podcast, and I really appreciate the shout out. That was so sweet. And a few other podcasters mentioned me. I had given away my stitch marker at Rhinebeck, and so a lot of people were showing the stitch marker and mentioning me. Thank you so much, Lorelei from the Knits and Beads podcast, Lorelei Erdo. She has a lovely podcast, which I really enjoyed, have been enjoying watching, and I also follow her on Instagram. I think she's Lorelei Erto, EURTO. On Instagram, and she is a jewelry maker and makes gorgeous jewelry. So follow her on Instagram and see these beautiful pieces that she's making. And I'm a lamp worker, so I got some ideas, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, so she mentioned me, and Andrea, the cat lady, mentioned meeting me, and I met her, and I love her podcast. I was going to do podcasts at the end, but anyway, she mentioned me, and Adrian the Freakish Lemon showed my stitch marker, and that was so nice. And Andy from Andre Sunitz, she showed my stitch marker. So people like the stitch markers, so that's fun. So you might like them too, and you might want to join the 100 subscriber giveaway when that happens. So that would be fun. So anyway, I don't have sections really in my podcast. I just kind of flow from one to the other, but I will be adding. I'm hoping it's not a regular feature, like, Barb, you talk too much and you have to eat your words. So, but I do have to do that today, and I'll do that after I show you my knitting. I have a finished pair of socks. These are my Patons Croix. It's a plain vanilla sock. Patons Croix socks in the Sunset Stripes colorway, and this is 75% superwash wool and 25% nylon, and they were a lot of fun to knit because, of course, anything that's stripy like this, and they don't match exactly. The two they don't match at all. The two balls, because they come in 50-gram balls, were completely different. In fact, they were actually opposite of each other. So, as I was knitting along, each sock was, oh, what's going to happen? So that was kind of fun. I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel on these, and I just did it right in line, as it came. I didn't do anything to try to manage the colors. And a wedge toe. And this is 64 stitches, which is what I've been typically knitting. Even though this yarn is a little bit thicker. I did them on Addie sock rockets in the size they call US 1, but everybody else would call it a US 1.5. It was a 2.5 millimeter needle, and I do my socks 2 at a time, cuff down on magic loop. So that's what I did with these. I cast on 64, and then I was concerned because I had done a pair of socks similar to this, and I ended up having to give them to my dad because they were a little too big. And so after I cast on the 64, I started to worry that they were going to be too big. But I have, big ankles, and I tried them on, and I wish they'd been too big. It would have been nice that I had little ankles, but I don't. And so they were fine. And I have been wondering if the Fish Lips Kiss heel is a little small for my heel, even though I love doing it, because doing socks 2 at a time magic loop, the Fish Lips Kiss heel, you can just do it and keep going, and it's nice, and I really like that. But some of the socks I've made lately, it feels like the fabric's a bit stretched over my heel, and I worry about how those socks will wear. So anyway, I've been wondering about that. So what I did was I kept the 64 stitches all the way past the heel down to about here. I took them in, and I decreased 4 stitches. So the rest of the foot is 60 stitches. And it's a little snugger on my foot, and they fit great, and I'm really happy with them. And these are going to be a great addition to my sock drawer. I've actually knit quite a few pairs of socks this year. I'm not sure exactly how many there are, but 4 or 5 of those pairs of socks ended up being gifts. And so I don't think I can qualify for the box O Socks Cal that Kristen of Vine Yarns is running, all year long and up until the end of December. If you do 12 pairs of socks, you're in the knit along. You're supposed to get a nice little box. I even found a box. But I'm pretty sure the rules of that are that the socks all have to be for you. And since I've earmarked many of my socks as gifts for other people, then I don't think I'm going to make it for the 12. But I have been adding to my sock drawer too, not just for gifts. And I love wearing my handmade socks, I've got to say. I wore other socks, not these, because I was saving them for the podcast, so you would see. But I did wear some of my hand knit socks yesterday to my mother's 84th birthday celebration. My sister-in-law, was so sweet. I mean, nobody had made any plans for my mother's, birthday. And so, I don't know, mid-September or whatever, she just decided she was going to throw a picnic for my mother for her birthday, which was lovely. Although I was a little concerned because my mother's birthday is October 26th and the picnic was going to be in central Pennsylvania, which could be a recipe for disaster weather-wise. But as it turned out, it was a beautiful day. I got to wear my hand knits, which is always a beautiful day, and we had a wonderful time. I gave my mother the quill shawl that I made. I think I showed that in episode 2. Excuse me. I think it was episode 2 or 3. Anyway, we had a wonderful birthday party for my mother, and she loved the shawl, although she did say, "Oh, a grandma shawl." I mean, she's a grandmother. She's a great grandmother because I'm a grandmother. But I didn't think of it as a grandma shawl. But she didn't care it was a grandma shawl. She wrapped herself up in it and was toasty warm at the picnic. And she loved it. And she's going to wear it. And it'll keep her warm. My mom's always cold. So, if she wants to call it a grandma shawl, I don't care as long as she loves it, which I think she did. I warned her. I said, "I think, Ma, you're going to be getting knitted items for the rest of your life from me." And she's like, "That'll be great. That'll be great." So I'm not worried about that. She's going to love everything I give her. I'm not telling you what I have for her for Christmas because while I was there, I set her computer up so that they can watch the podcast if they want to. I don't know how, But anyway, so I don't think she'll be able to figure out how to fast forward. So I'm not telling you what I got making my mom for Christmas. Anyway, what I am wearing my Across the Pond shawl by Mina Phillip. And this is in Madeline Tosh Light, Merino Light, the singles fingering yarn. Everybody knows about this yarn. It's a wonderful, gorgeous yarn. The gray lace is done in a color called Great Gray Owl. And according to my project page, this is called Black Velvet. But boy, that didn't ring a bell to me when I read it because I looked it up to try to see because I made this, I don't know, maybe in May or June, I'm not sure. But anyway, my project page says this is called Black Velvet and there's no black in it. But it's dark gray. Maybe there is. Anyway, it's beautiful and I love it. And so I wanted to show you that. So anyway, but the socks are my only finished object. But I have a bunch of works in progress that I will show you. This is a work in progress that had I shown you this work in progress last week because it's an old one. I've been working on this since the early summer, I think. Well, I worked on it for a while and I put it away. But with the upcoming picnic at the end of October, I thought, oh, I need a hat because I really don't have a hat for myself. I've made a few hats. I made hats for Christmas year before last for the kids, and I've made my granddaughter many hats, and I made my husband a hat. I actually made him a hat. And my mother and my mother-in-law has a hat I made. I do have one kind of silly hat. It's called the emergency hat. You can look it up in Ravelry. And it's really just a cowl that's got a string around it so that you can pull the string tight and then it's a hat. So I don't consider it a serious hat. It certainly isn't going to be a warm hat. So anyway, I saw Lee of the Luli podcast. I love her podcast. Her podcast is one of the ones, that, oh, Luli has a new podcast, and I watch it right away. So she had made this hat, and it's called the Encircle Hat by Woolly Wormhead. And it is a beautiful hat. I love the way it looks. And I was, trying to find projects that I liked that I could make out of my handspun. So I had some handspun that I was really happy with. Can't see it very well here. Here it is in Hank. That I had made. This is a oatmeal. Pretty sure it's oatmeal. I have these little tags on it. Yep, my tag doesn't say anything much. But I think it was Oatmeal BFL that was dyed. And I just love the colors of it. It's kind of muted colors. And I mean, is this looking familiar? This is the same color, colors way practically that my cardigan was, and my Throw the Dice Boneyard shawl, which I made out of my hand spun. So it's like all the hand spun that I've spun. It's not true. I have other hand spun over here, which you can't see, that aren't this color. But these are the later things that I've done, and so they turned out really well and had higher yardage. Maybe I just love this color. Why don't I just accept that? Why does it bother me to think that I like this color? But anyway, this is the one I'm actually working on. It's looking a little ratty. And here's the hat. I'll make you wiggle. Here's the hat. And if I had shown you this hat last week, it would have looked exactly like this. Because I decided, oh, I need a hat. Let me get this hat. So I pulled the hat out, and I hadn't made any notes on the pattern as to where I was. So I was having trouble figuring out where I was. And then when I looked at it's actually a series of what turns out to be circles. They're like cables that turn into circles. It was clear that I had made a mistake. And the circles weren't closed in the top circles. Anyway, I just had this idea. I don't know where I am. I obviously made a mistake. Let me start over. And the way this hat is designed, it's a paid-for pattern, so I don't want to say too much, but you can tell when you look at the picture that the brim of the hat is knit separately from the top. So you knit the brim and then you pick up stitches to do the rest of the hat. And the brim is really a tube. I don't know if you can tell that, which makes the brim this is going to be a warm hat. It's a warm hat. It's a beautiful hat. And it's two saving graces, because let me tell you, I spent a whole day getting this hat back to where it was when I tore it out. And I did not enjoy 1 minute of knitting this hat. I hated every minute of knitting this hat. And I cannot remember that ever happening to me before. At the end of the day, I was like, oh my gosh, I am so not enjoying myself. And I was shocked. I got a little better at the end, like after thinking about it for a while, I realized, I need to try to do this without a cable needle because it won't be quite so fiddly. So I did some without a cable needle, and then I realized, well, some of them are better with a cable needle, but they don't all have to be cable, So I came up with a combination of how to knit this that was a little better. So it might be better next time I pick this up, but I didn't enjoy knitting it. It's all reverse stockinette, and I don't mind purling. I'm a continental knitter. Purling is no big deal. But, and it's just, these little circles are fiddly. And I realized I wasn't enjoying it. It's nothing against the pattern. Obviously I don't enjoy making these circles, which are the pattern. But the pattern's very well written. It's obvious what I'm supposed to be doing. It's got a chart and anyway. But I love the way the hat looks, and it's out of my hand spun. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure if would be able to even tear it all out and get all the yarn back. And I really want to have the hat. So I'm going to be working on this hat. And like I said, it's a shame, because if I had showed you this hat last week, it would have looked exactly like this. Because you can see in my ball, I haven't quite knit all the yarn that I ripped out. So I'm not even back to where I was. But I think getting further away from the brim will make it easier to manipulate, so it won't be quite so fiddly. And I think it's a beautiful hat. I love the hat, and I think it's going to be really, really warm around my ears, which is what I need. So You know, sometimes you just don't love every part of a project. Unfortunately, it's the knitting part, which, you know, is kind of a drag. So anyway, that's my first work in progress, which you never saw before, but I'm showing you now because I spent a whole day working on it to get it kind of almost back where it was. But also because, you know, if you see my project, then I feel some obligation to work on it, which worked for my husband's sweater. I'll show you my husband's sweater. So I showed you my husband's, oops, I rolled on my thing. Showed you my husband's sweater last week, and I was very close. This is the sweater. It's called the Kerouac by Jen Jarvis, Jenn, and it is obviously V-neck cardigan man sweater, and it's being knit in a sport weight yarn, so it's a lot of knitting. But and you knit it from the bottom up, and I was at like the point where I needed to start thinking about splitting for the sleeves. And it's a V-neck, so, you know, you do this and this at the same time. And, you know, I took one look at that pattern and said, okay, let's just put this in the bag for a while. You know, it was probably warm. And I thought, oh, well, Dennis doesn't need this sweater for a while. So anyway, so here's where I was last week. I was right here. And it doesn't look like I did too much because that was where I had to split for the front and the back, you know, adding the sleeves. So you can see I only had to do, you know, that's why I stopped, because I was that close to having to think. So I added that 1/2 inch, but I've also done this much of the left front. So I have been working on it. The pattern was, I wasn't positive about what I was supposed to do, in part because the schematic that they showed the armhole to be pretty straight down and then just go around a little bit. But that's not how it is. It is actually quite sloped. And I double checked, you know, I'm counting stitches because you bind off X number and then X number, 9 rows, every other row for 9 rows, you decrease a stitch. Well, that brings it all the way over. I mean, it makes a nice, lovely little thing, but that's not what the schematic shows. The schematic shows a little dip and then it goes straight up, so who knows. And then this is the V-neck side. That seems to be going pretty well too. So I don't have to think about the sleeve side anymore, just the V-neck side. And so I'm working on this. And don't worry, Gail, I'm working on this. I had a viewer, Gail was worried and made a comment, work on your husband's sweater. We want to see it. And I told my husband and he laughed. He said, I did not leave that comment. I said, but he really appreciated your support, Gail, let me tell you. And so here I am working on it. And I do love this yarn, which I forgot to show you again. This is the Outlaw yarn. And this is the Bohemian Sport. And the green is called Leather. The colorway is called Leather, and the tan is called Earl. And this is a beautiful, beautiful, yummy yarn to work with. It's 45% Polworth, 45% alpaca, and 10% possum. They have a possum problem in New Zealand, and so they're solving that in part by, apparently these possums were brought there for fur. And it's a beautiful soft yarn. Anyway, so I'm working on Dennis's. And this, I forgot to look and see what size needle this is. And it doesn't say. So this needle's been in this work for a long time. So it's a Chiagu, obviously. But I'm not sure what size it is. I'll check it and tell you next week. The thing that's interesting about that I thought was interesting is you can see there's a line like right there, maybe you can't see, where it's obvious that my tension is much looser in the top part of that. You can kind of see that line. And the bottom. And that wouldn't be surprising because it's been over a year, and my tension's going to change. Except that line is about 3 rows below where I left off knitting last time. So for some reason, for 3 rows a year ago, my tension got looser. And it's about what it is now. But he tried this on because I put it on waste yarns, and so I was able to like put it around him and, check it for size, and the size is just right. And, so I'm not going to worry about my tension, and I'm just going to keep knitting. I'm not going to try to fix my tension because this is going to work fine for him. But I thought that was interesting because, I expected that line to be exactly where I started knitting it this week. And it wasn't. It was at least 3 rows below where I started, which I found very, very strange. But I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to keep going. He'll love it. The next thing I was knitting on are my monkey socks. The pattern is the monkey socks by Cookie A. And the yarn is really, really yummy yarn. It's by Oink Pigments. And it's 90% superwash merino and 10% nylon. And the color is Blackberry Brambles. And this is yummy yarn. Oink Pigments. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. She was at the Indie Untangled, which was the name of that little yarn festival the Friday before Rhinebeck, and I talked about that last time. But I love this yarn, and but it's got a pattern. But the pattern, I'm kind of getting the pattern, so it's a little more mindless. Excuse me, more mindless than Diet Coke again. No wine. A little more mindless for me now than it was to begin with, because this is my second pair of monkey socks. I made another pair in August, so I'm kind of getting it and figuring it out, and so I don't need to look at the pattern all the time. And it makes a nice, squishy, beautiful sock. So I'm loving these socks, but they're not going too quickly. I will be probably this week casting on a pair of, Vanilla is the New Black. I bought a new pattern. Vanilla is the New Black. And I think that's a plain, I haven't read it completely through. And I forget who it is, but I'll put it down here or up there, because I have to edit this in a different way because it's on my phone. So it goes up there now. Vanilla is the New Black, which is a vanilla sock pattern, but it's got this really fancy heel that I understand from other people talking about it, that you can do this heel 2 at a time, magic loop, which is, heel, cuff down, which is how I knit my socks. I have knit my socks 2 at a time from day one. When I first started, I was knitting them in tandem. I'd do a couple rows on one, and then I'd do a couple rows on the other until I saw Mina Phillip, and she talked about how she does hers on the same needle. I'm like, I'm there, girl. That's it for me, because I can just see myself having second sock syndrome. That would be so me. One sock done. Feels like I'm done. All right. And so the last but not least, I started my Walk in the Woods shawl, which I showed you last week. I showed you the yarn. I bought the yarn at Indie Untangled from Magpie. And this is the shawl. It's a worsted weight shawl, and it's so squishy and wonderful. And these are my 2 colors. And I'm really enjoying making this shawl, I gotta tell you. So here it is. Take it off I love these things. I use them all the time. And I can't remember what it's called, but I'll put that in the show notes, because I have it in the show notes of my first episode because I use these all the time. They're great. And this is my Walk in the Woods shawl. And this is the first time I've done anything quite so extensive with colors, although, you know, I'm not giving away any secret to tell you it's all done with slip stitches. And so it starts here, and the single color it's a 3 skein shawl. So this single color of the teal is, and this is a yarn by Magpie, and where's my tag? I guess I gotta clean out my bags in between, don't I? Okay. It's by Magpie. It's called Swish Domestic, and the blue color is called Out of the Blue, and it's 100% domestic superwash merino. And so this blue color is Out of the Blue. It's kind of a tealy. I think you're kind of getting it. Yeah, it's a little more teal than that maybe. And then the green is called Limelight. And I am loving this. And this, you know, talk about the opposite of that hat. This is so much fun. So much fun to knit. I'm really enjoying it. I'm a little concerned. I don't know if this is going to be drapey or not. Maybe I should have... I didn't swatch. My swatches are big fat liars anyway. So I didn't swatch. But, you know, it's not going to be super drapey, but it's going to be so squishy and warm. Anyway, I'm having so much fun doing this. I'm doing these on size 7 Chiagu interchangeables. And the pattern calls for size 7 on the plain side, and then to switch to a 9 on the colored side. I have a tendency, I think, to be I guess I'm a tight knitter because I have to go up a size. So I guess I'm a little bit of a tight knitter. So I switched to size 9 as the pattern suggested for the color. At least I thought I did. I mean, I got them out and I thought I don't know what I did, but anyway, but by the time I turned around, I'm still on a 7, and I don't know how that happened. I can't figure out the logistics of that because I had the 9, I was moving it to the 9, and I couldn't just put the 9 on the end of this cord because the 9 is the cutoff on the Chiagu red lace interchangeables, and it goes to a larger cord. The coupling on the cord is bigger once you go from 9 to the higher numbers in the interchangeable. So I couldn't just slide the 9 on this cord and just keep going, because then I would have known. I still can't figure out how I did it, to tell you the truth. So I had to have it on a separate cord, and anyway, when I was done, I was on a 7, but I like the way it's turning out, so I didn't worry about it. It doesn't seem to be tight or, tighter than I'll tell you the truth. I discovered that I was still on a 7 when I thought, gee, I wonder if this is too loose. So it's not too tight. So anyway, I am really, really enjoying this, knitting this so much. And this is a Walk in the Woods by Malia Designs, M-A-L-I-H-A Designs. And I am loving this. And this is going to be the squishiest, most amazing shawl when I'm done. This is going to be one of those keep me warm shawls. And I'm loving these colors. I was a little bit like, a little out of my comfort zone with these two wild colors together, but look how gorgeous it is. Anyway, I am so happy with it. All right. So, those are my works in progress. So now my, what the hell was I talking about section? I don't even know what I'm going to call this, eat my words, something like that. And I had talked last week when I was talking about my husband. Excuse me, my face gets itchy when I podcast. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to keep rubbing it, and I hope it's not too annoying. When I started talking about my husband's sweater, one of my complaints was that the stripes are an odd number. And I was pretty sure I had checked it, and it was an odd number, and I thought maybe I'll have to eat my words. Well, I don't. It's an odd number, 21. So I thought that was weird, which means that I can't carry the yarn up the side, but maybe that will all become clear to me when I start adding the button band around it, and maybe it would be too much to try to have all the ends. Well, you wouldn't have ends if you were carrying it up the side. I don't know. But anyway, those are not the words I'm going to eat because it is 21. It is an odd number, and I do think it's odd. But a couple of podcasts back, I was talking about the Stephen West Mystery Knit-Along that I had bought the pattern for the Building Blocks shawl. And I was having second thoughts. I was having a lot of trouble finding the yarn that I wanted to use. You know, I was trading in and out and whatever, and I got the first clue, and I watched the video on how to make the first clue, and I started to wonder if I liked the shawl well enough to invest the time and these 4 balls of beautiful yarn to make a shawl that I'm not sure I'm gonna like. Because, you know, people were showing their shawls, and, you know, I wasn't sure about the shape and whether I liked it or not. So during that conversation, I was talking about Stephen West's mystery knit-alongs, and I said, you know, some of them are so successful, like the Exploration Station. It's a beautiful shawl, and I want to knit that. I haven't knit it yet, but I bought yarn for it at the Maryland Sheep and Wool in May. So it's on my list of things to do eventually, and I love it, and I've seen so many beautiful exploration stations that I love. And, you know, and I said, and, you know, I felt like that was a very successful design. And Kristen of Woolenvine, and of Yarngasm Podcast, and Laura of the Dyer's Notebook are having a knit along. And, you know, that was my evidence that, you know, there's people are still doing it years later. And I mentioned the doodler, which, you know, I think it looks like it would be a lot of fun to knit. And there's a big, you know, having fun knitting something is a big reason to knit it, you know. But I wasn't that crazy about the shawls I had seen. And so I opined in my infinite wisdom that maybe that design wasn't quite as successful. Well, you know what? What do I know? Stephen West is a brilliant designer. His stuff is amazing. He's amazing. Who am I to, you know, question whether or not that's a successful design or not? And, you know, my evidence was, you know, you don't hear about people making them. Well, apparently people are making them. So I'm full of, oh, I won't say it. Anyway, pay no attention to me. And as it turns out, I have seen several doodlers since I said that I really liked. So I don't know why I thought I didn't like it. I think it's the same thing as like with the quill shawl. If I don't love it in the yarn it's in, I'm not sure about the pattern. But anyway, so it turns out the Yarn Junkie podcast and the Milkshed podcast are going together, and they're having a doodler knit along. So people are making the doodler. So who the heck am I? And when I was at Rhinebeck, I was in this booth, and I can't remember what yarn it was. I wish I had paid closer attention. But Stephen West was in that booth trying to buy yarn. I don't know if he was ever able to buy anything at Rhinebeck because, you know, people were... I mean, that's where I talked to him about his knitted pants. I told you I saw him. But anyway, one of the things he was doing in there besides buying yarn was helping a woman pick out the 3 colors that she was going to use, or however many, that she was going to use in her doodler. So clearly people love the doodler and are knitting the doodler, and I've seen a few doodlers I like. I don't know why I thought I, should have an opinion on that, on whether or not it was a successful design. Who am I? And besides, he's brilliant. He really is brilliant. I mean, you look at his designs, he's really brilliant. So anyway, I'm eating my words. I'm eating those words, let me tell you, because what a jerk. I must have sounded like a jerk. Ugh. Anyway, But when you're a talker, which I am, some of you are talkers, I bet. So you know what I mean. Sometimes after you're done talking, you sit there and you think, what the hell was I talking about? Why did I say that? Sometimes you just talk. So sorry, Stephen. He's not watching my podcast. I'm sure, I'm sure. Maybe nobody even noticed I said it or cared. I mean, I'm sure people heard that and said, oh, what does she know? It's a beautiful shawl. And and since then, of course, you go to Rhinebeck, you see a lot of beautiful knitwear. And I saw several doodlers. I have seen several doodlers since I said that are gorgeous and make me think, because I really think it looks like such a fun thing to knit. I think the knitting would be so much fun. That cable and the dotted rays, it's kind of like his dotted rays. Anyway, I'll shut up. But I think I'm not cut out for a mystery knit along. I think that's part of it. I think I just need to know what it looks like before I start, because now I've seen, more of the clues on the building block shawl, and I'm liking it. I do wish I had been braver and just cast on all those things I picked, and but I have other things to do. It's not like I'm sitting around not knitting because I didn't knit that. I'm not sure October is a good month for me to do a mystery knit along anyway, because I do Christmas knitting and I'd start to feel a little rush. Not that I've been knitting Christmas stuff. Have you noticed me knitting my Christmas stuff? No. But anyway, so I don't know if it's October. I don't know if it's the pictures, or maybe I'm just not a mystery knit along kind of person. Not everybody is. I'm sure it's fine that I'm not a mystery knit along kind of person. So, but I'm thinking about bringing up the rear and maybe, in January, knitting building blocks because I have the pattern. Well, I have the 3, there's one more Friday, I guess next Friday. I think it'll be the end of it. So anyway, so that's my what the hell was I talking about section, which I'm hoping does not become a very regular part of my podcast, but I'm sure you'll hear it again because, I'm a talker. The other thing I wanted to say, one thing I did this week was I registered for some classes at Vogue Knitting Live, New York City. That's in January. I think it's like the 14th to the 16th. I'll double check and put it here if I'm wrong, or maybe I'll put it here anyway. But their registration is going on now. So if you have any interest in going to some classes at Vogue Knitting Live in New York City, now's the time, because I had gotten my, email and I got on and I registered for a couple classes. I was very interested in taking Felicia Lowe from Sweet Georgia is teaching classes on how to dye yarn different ways. And I have this idea. I want to learn how to dye yarn. I mean, I've bought stuff in preparation for one of these days. I'm just going to bite the bullet and dye some yarn and see what happens and be brave. And I thought, I would like to take a class with her. And so I signed up for the classes, and I had signed up for a few things. And, when I was clicking through, it was, talked about getting a hotel room at the Marquis Marriott or wherever the show is, which, I would like to do. But it's expensive. And, so I was hemming and hawing, and I clicked through, and it didn't seem, the registration for the hotel didn't seem to work. And, I do get a little frustrated with bad internet site designs, I gotta tell you. I think that you really need to pay attention to your user interface on an internet site. But because I'm a big click that X and get the heck out of there if I don't like your internet site. So I did that. I clicked out and got out, and so I ended up not registering for those classes. And I even got an email from Vogue Knitting, oh, I saw you, and did you have trouble? And, is that why you stopped? And, give us a call. And so I thought about it, and I went back in and I, signed up for the classes again. And then I thought, I better talk to Dennis because this is expensive. And I think I'm owed a birthday present from 2016. And I thought, oh, maybe this will be my birthday present. Well, by the time I discussed it with him, and I went back to finish my registration, both of Felicia Lowe's classes that I had signed up for were full. And I was not registered for those classes. So then I thought, these are my first choices. And, And then I said to myself, well, there are knitting techniques you could learn. And you want to go. And it'll be fun because I've never been. And Eric from Sticks Plus Twine talks about it a lot. He went last year. I remember, his early... I guess his podcast must be coming up on his 1-year anniversary, because pretty early on in his podcast life, he went to Vogue Knitting Live and talked about it in his podcast. And I met him at Rhinebeck. I got a hug. I got a selfie with him. He was very sweet. But so he talked about it. And so after last year, I thought, gee, I'm close. I can take the train to New York. I mean, I could take the train to New York and not even stay overnight, but it would take me at least 3 hours or more by train each way, which would be a drag. And driving, forget it. I could drive to New Jersey and park and take the train from Princeton Junction or something and do that, drive halfway. Anyway, I decided I want to stay overnight. I love the city. I love the city at night. And so I decided I wanted to stay over. And so anyway, I wrote down my things. I signed up for, and I should for 3 classes. So I signed up for a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday. I'm staying 2 nights. I'm going to do the whole weekend, and I'm getting very excited. So I signed up for Fair Isle Socks by Mary Jane Mucklestone, who's a very famous Fair Isle person, and I'm very excited to take a class. In 2015, I had a knitting goal, a New Year's knitting goal. I don't make resolutions. Exactly, because as soon as it's a resolution, I'm like, forget it, I'm not doing that. I don't know what it is about me, but so it's not a resolution. But I did have sort of a 2015 knitting goal, which was learn how to knit socks and make socks. And I did that, and that was fun. Last year, around New Year's, I had just started watching podcasts and listening to podcasts, and everybody was talking about you need a word for the year and all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't think I want a word for the year, and I'm not, and so the new year came in with me thinking about, a word, and I don't know, I'm not going to do a word. I don't think that works for me. And if I made a knitting, I was just going to say resolution or, goal for myself in 2016. I don't remember what it was. So when they say write down your goals, yeah, that would probably be a good idea. Because it's possible I didn't have one, but if I did, I don't remember what it is. But I've been thinking about 2017, and I said in my last podcast that, this has kind of been the year of the shawl. And I think next year is going to be the year of the sweater. But the other thing that I want to learn how to do next year is, Fair Isle knitting or knitting with more than one color. I mean, I'm doing the slip stitch stuff with the Walk in the Woods shawl, but I want to do real Fair Isle or Intarsia or both, and learn how to do that in 2017. So that was kind of my goal. So when I saw that Fair Isle sock class, I signed up for it. So I'm doing that one. The other one, I think it's called Shawl Shapes with Vera Velamaki. And, she's a brilliant designer who's designed lots of shawls. And it's, talk about how you get different shapes and, kind of thing. So I'm excited. I'm excited to take that class too. And that's on Saturday. I think the Fair Isle is on Friday. The Vera Velamaki class is on Saturday. And on Sunday, I am taking a class with Felicia Lowe on how to dye fiber. Spinning fiber, which perfectly, actually, I think dyeing fiber would be scarier for me. So I'm very glad to have this class because, I worry a lot about felting my fiber and that kind of thing. And I have a lot of undyed fiber that I can bring. I have to read the instructions on what to do and homework and things like that. But since I'm in this natural fiber club, with Highland Handmaids all year, I have lots of natural fiber. So I have fiber that I could dye, and it would be fun to spin my own fiber that I dyed. So anyway, so I'm excited about that. That's on Sunday. So I decided not to take 2 classes on Saturday because I wanted to have time to go to the marketplace, because, you know, it's a big sale. And so I have a Friday afternoon class, and then I'll stay overnight, and then I have a Saturday morning class, and then the afternoon free to shop or whatever. Last year there was a podcasters meetup, so if they do that again, I would like to go to that. And then Sunday morning a class, and then I'll come home. And I'm sure I'm going to take the train. I am not going to be driving, so I'll take the train. And so I'm looking forward to that. But I just wanted to let you know that registration is open for Vogue Knitting Live New York City if you want. And Felicia Lowe's class isn't the only one that's already filled up. So if you have any interest in that, you should go to their website. And I'll put a link to the website in my show notes to help you find it. So I had a few things come in the mail before Rhinebeck, which I said I would show you this week because last week was my, goodies from Rhinebeck. And I had a few things that I was expecting, and they all came today. So the only thing I have sort of out in the world that I'm expecting to come to me eventually is I have been waiting 7 weeks for my Anything But Lazy Kate, and which is a very fancy Lazy Kate that I'm hoping will help me with my plying if I ever get it. So I still have some hope that I'll get it. And so when I get it, I'll tell you that whole story because that's been something very interesting. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, I got some really beautiful things in the mail that I would like to talk to you about. So the things that I got before Rhinebeck, there's a little crinkling, I'm sorry. One of the things I got before Rhinebeck was this. And this is a beautiful bat. And guess what the color name is on this? It's called Concord Grape, which is like the perfect colorway name. And this is from my Fiberista Club. It's my last shipment because I canceled that club, and I was really sorry I canceled it when I saw what I got this time, but I just have too much. I have so much, but this is such a beautiful, and this is the first time they sent a bat. And this is 50% merino and 50% cashmere. And let me tell you, it is amazing. Really, really amazing. So this is a 200-gram bat. And I have been trying to figure out how to spin long draw. And I bought the Craftsy class from Worsted to Woolen, which at the end you're spinning, supported long draw. And I've been watching videos, and I've been trying, and it doesn't come easily to me, but that, should be spun woolen. It's a roving bat. I mean, it's a bat. It's not carded, or it's not combed. It's not combed top. It's beautiful. So I'm excited about that. So that is gorgeous. But I haven't been doing very much spinning, in part because I don't have my Lazy Kate, but in a way that's kind of an excuse, I guess, because I could be filling up my bobbins and just waiting for that Lazy Kate. But I feel like I've been busy. My weekends have been busy, which And then, I have a whole day where I'm with my granddaughter, and, so turns out I didn't have very much time the last couple of weeks. So I haven't done any spinning, but I will be getting back to it because I have one more bobbin to make for a 3 ply yarn I'm trying to make, which I've shown you in earlier podcasts. The other thing that I had before Rhinebeck, which was gorgeous, is this Hue Loco yarn. This is spun sock. It's an 80-10-10 superwash merino cashmere nylon. And isn't this beautiful? It's gray, but with purples and greens. And this is the Grocery Girls color. This was a pre-order, and I pre-ordered it. She's in Colorado, so this just has all these beautiful colors. But it's, every once in a while there's a splash of something wonderful, but it's pretty much gray. And I thought, so when you do a color, there's beautiful colors in there, and then green. If you're doing a colorway based on the Grocery Girls, are you doing it based on the colors they like, or the colors you think about when you watch their podcast? Because I think this is maybe based on the colors they like. Because I think of them as more bright and bubbly. I mean, this is a beautiful colorway, and I'm very glad to have it, and it will make beautiful whatever I make out of it. But I think of the Grocery Girls as kind of bright and bubbly and, more... This is a little subdued. I don't think of them as subdued. But I think maybe this is more colors that they love and are attracted to, as opposed to colors that kind of reflect their personality. That's my guess. I don't know. But anyway, it's a beautiful yarn, and I was glad. And this is the first yarn I have from Hue Loco. So this is another first. I told you that I've been watching Once Upon a Corgi with Gabby. Gabagales in Ravelry and Instagram. And anyway, she had a shop update, and I couldn't resist. So this is her yarn, and this is her Audrey base, which is 80% superwash BFL and 20% nylon. And the color is Demon Unicorn. How can you resist a color called Demon Unicorn? And those bright orange with the muted purple. And look at these teals. These are going to be, I guess, the most gorgeous socks. Unless I decide to make it into the most gorgeous shawl. But whatever it is, totally gorgeous. So her shop is called Upon a Corgi. It's a Etsy shop. And, but I mean, how can you resist a color called Demon Unicorn? Sometimes you just can't resist. So I bought that. That came today. And then Helen and Mary Beth of the Crafty Toads podcast, who they are, that podcast is one of my favorites. And I had gone to Rhinebeck with them. Well, I had met them in Rhinebeck, and we shopped together for a few hours. Oh, I just took this apart and I left it on so you could see. It was all wrapped in paper with their tag. Their shop is called Toad Hollow. Toad Hollow, New Jersey. Toad Hollow NJ on Etsy. I don't know if you can, if that's focusing or not. But anyway, they had a pre-order of this beautiful, beautiful fabric in a project bag. And it was a kit because they were pairing it with a beautiful yarn from their local yarn shop that they work with. And this yarn is called Starlight. And the dyer is Chelsea Chelsea yarns, and this is the Luxe, which is 80% superwash merino. Oops, sorry, that's terrible. Podcaster fail. And 20% nylon. And when I saw this yarn, I don't know why, I just thought that will be beautiful. It's got little tiny pops of color and speckles. These are blue, dark blue speckles and gray. And then it's got this gold, orangey, burnt orange mixed all in, but not a lot of it. It's just well, I guess when you open it up, there's more. It's like lots of speckles, lots of colors. Anyway, when I saw the pre-order for this, I loved the bag and I loved the yarn. So the bag is by Helen and Mary Beth of Toad Hollow. I love their toad. Toad Hollow NJ is their shop. And their podcast is The Crafty Toads, which I really enjoy a lot. And thank you, ladies, for that gorgeous, gorgeous. And they included some tea and a little note saying it was nice to spend some time with me at Rhinebeck, which was lovely of them. And so that was nice. And then last but not least, Nancy of the Round Rabbit podcast has recently been making quilted bags. And she showed them on Instagram. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even need bags. But actually, this is the perfect size for me because I've been keeping my Walk in the Woods shawl in my Lone Larch bag. And it is the Lone Larch bag is the perfect 2-skein bag. But this is a 3-skein project. And it is so jammed in there. And I have to be careful. So I am moving it to my new bag by Nancy at Round Rabbit. Isn't this beautiful? These beautiful batiks, and she pieced these together and it's quilted and it's beautiful. Look at that detail on she's got the nice zipper covers and all these seams are straight. Beautiful. I mean, of course they're straight. She wouldn't be selling them if they weren't made well, but it's nice and cushy and with this bright orange on the inside. Anyway, gorgeous bag, very, very well made, and it's going to be perfect for my Walk in the Woods shawl. But she also included this beautiful, she's a ceramic artist, and so this is her card. So you can find her on Big Cartel. I don't think that's focusing very well, but I will put this in the show notes. roundrabbitextra.bigcartel.com is where her where you can find her shop. And so she is a ceramic artist and does beads and buttons, and look what she gave me. Can you see that? Oh, how do I get this to focus? Maybe that's better. It's a beautiful butterfly, ceramic butterfly button. It was just so beautiful. And then I'm thinking, once I'm done with this hat that I'm hating knitting, it needs a button. Now, I don't know. I mean, it may be that isn't enough contrast and the button won't show very well. But this hat needs one button, and I'm putting this button on it. And if I find something that the button will be better on, I'll just take it off of this and put another button on the hat. But it is so beautiful. And I was so excited to get it. Thank you so much, Nancy. And I love, love, love the bag. It's all squishy, and it stands up very nicely. And it's hand-pieced. Beautiful fabrics. So it's very kind of inspiring. You know, I'm a glass artist. I'm always trying to come up with looking at colors and, you know, trying to figure out things. And when you get something like this, you're like, oh, and the thinking about ideas, and you know, you get your ideas from all kinds of places, but these batik fabrics are just gorgeous. Anyway, thank you everybody for your gorgeous handmade things, because really beautiful, and what fun mail I got today. But I am not ordering anything else, any more yarn, and no more bags. And you know, if I end up needing buttons or things like that, I might order buttons and things like that. But I really, that's it for the year. I've run out of money. And I've been spending a lot, and I got to save whatever I come up with, because on January 14th, I'm going to Vogue City Live. Vogue what's it called? Vogue Knitting Live in New York City. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of wonderful things there that I might want. So I'm going to stop with the shopping and start knitting. And I really am thinking about, you know, I don't know why it's the end of October, why I'm thinking about the new year. It's, I guess, because I have sort of all my knitting planned and everything. And, you know, it won't be till the new year when I can sort of start something new. And, you know, I guess other people are thinking about New Year too, not just me. But I'm contemplating, I don't know if you watch The Little Yellow Uke with Zena. It's a wonderful podcast. She's a lovely woman in Great Britain, and she does all kinds of crafting, but mostly knitting. And she is also dyeing yarn. So those sweet pink and green socks that I made a few episodes ago were from her yarn. But anyway, she over this past year has been trying to manage her stash, and one of the things she does is she's trying to sort of have a neutral stash year, and she's doing it by meters. So she's keeping track of how many meters, or is it grams? Oh, it's grams. I think it's grams. She's keeping track of how many grams she has going in and how many grams going out, and going out is knitted up. Or if she destashes, you know, if she gives away yarn, if she destashes, that's out also. But works in progress don't count. It's only when you finish a project does that meterage or the grams or whatever count towards her totals. So anyway, she's keeping track of how much in versus how much out. And I'm thinking maybe I'll try something like that, to try to just keep track of what I'm doing. I mean, this is my 6th podcast, and I've had goodies to show every single podcast. And I got to stop. I am not going to have any goodies to show you next week that came in the mail. Actually, that could be a lie. Well, not in the mail. But I do have a couple of Christmas presents that I don't think I have the yarn I need for. So I might buy something at my local yarn shop. But it will be specifically for a Christmas present that I already, that I'm getting ready to cast on, and I need the yarn. So am I already backtracking on what I just said? I don't know. But anyway, I've got to stop with the buying yarn that I don't, because I love it, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it, because I have beautiful, beautiful yarn here. I've got lots of beautiful yarn. And so if I want to enable you and, show you goodies, I can do that. I can just grab my stash and say, here, look at this. It's gorgeous. And anyway, so that's what I'm thinking about. And if anybody else is interested in doing something like that, maybe we can do that in the Flame and Fiber podcast Ravelry group, because we're going to start doing things in there. So please join the Ravelry group, because when I get to 100 subscribers on YouTube, I'm going to have a giveaway. And I'll try to make it worth your while to join the group and say hello. And if people don't join, then those 8 of you who've already joined, your chances are great. Your chances are so good. So maybe you're wishing nobody else joined. So it could be just the 8 of you, that would be fine too, because I'm giving something away. Anyway, it's been so nice to talk to you. I've been talking enough and I'm done. So I hope you have a great week. I hope you have lots of time to do whatever crafting you love to do that brings you joy. And I will see you next week. So hit subscribe if you'd like to know about it or you'd like to make me smile. And join the Ravelry group. And I'll see you next week. Bye.